Hello, this is Paranormal Girl. The mystery and legend of the crystal skull. There are very few legends that cross over cultures and times the way the crystal skull legends do. They are contemporarily shared by the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Native Americans, and other indigenous people around the world. And in philosophical terms, they are recorded in Atlantean and Lemurian times. These legends have been handed down from generation to generation for thousands of years, which attests to their enduring power. The legend of the Great Flood, which was passed down from ancient times, is one of the few enduring legends that is also shared by most cultures around the world, which scientists now confirm are real. While that event marked an end of time, for many people around the world, there may be some parallels to the Mayan legends regarding 2012. The more you learn about the crystal skulls, the more you realise the power of the multiple crystal skulls. There are many cultures that have legends about crystal skulls, sometimes involving different numbers of crystal skulls. However, 13 crystal skulls seem to be the common denominator among most of the crystal skull legends. Native American Cherokee medicine man Harley Swift Deer Regan is quoted as saying, "The skulls were kept inside a pyramid in a formation of tremendous power known as the Ark. The Ark was comprised of the 12 skulls from each of the sacred planets kept in a circle, with the 13th skull, the largest, placed in the center of this formation. This 13th skull represents the collective consciousness of all the worlds. It connects up with the knowledge of all the sacred planets." The basic elements of the 13 crystal skull legend is that at a pivotal time in humanity's history, the 13 crystal skulls will be reunited to awaken a new era, transforming from an old paradigm into a new world. Patricio Domírez, Pablo's spiritual advisor, said, "The crystal skulls are complete depositories of knowledge, and each skull contains a particular specialist area of information, like a living library. Each skull is like a volume in a set of encyclopedias, and the people who will be in the future will be able to read the crystal skulls to extract all the knowledge from the skulls once they are all assembled together. And of course, the knowledge that is going to come out from the skulls is quite unimaginable in our current minds. But that's definitely going to come out of a certain time, and it's already forgone. It has been prophesied, but whether we humans acknowledge for good or for our own destruction is really down to our preparations. Many believe that there is a strong connection between the crystal skulls and the Mayans, and the Mayan calendar ending in 2012, while there is a current belief that more than 13 ancient crystal skulls exist, and some say 52 or 4 sets of 13 in recent years. The Mayans have spearheaded a grand reunion of North America's indigenous chiefs in an effort to unite forces toward the commonly foreseen future as recounted by the Mayan elders. According to Grand Elder Don Perez, head of the National Council of Maya Elders, a 13th generation Quiche Maya spiritual leader, says the prophecy says, "Now is the time of awakening. This is your job now, to awaken. The veil of the 9 hells is past, and the time of warning has now arrived. It is time to prepare for the age of the 13 heavens. The time of 12 Bacton and 13 Ahu is fast approaching, and they shall be here among you to defend Mother Earth. The prophecy says, "Let the dawn come. Let all the people defend all the creatures and have peace. Let all things live happily, for the love must not only be between humans, but between all living things." They said, "We are the children of the sun. We are the children of time, and we are the travellers in space." May all the songs awaken. May all the dancers awaken. May all the people and all things live in peace, for you are the valleys. You are the mountains. You are the trees. You are the very air you breathe. Now is the time of return of the grandmothers and grandfathers. Now is the time of the return of the elders. Now is the time of the return of the wise ones. And the wise ones are all of you. Now is the time to go out into the world and spread the light. The sacred flame has been kept for this purpose, and now the time approaches when you will be required to love all things, to love a world that has gone crazy, to rebalance the heavens and the earth. For the time of warning has come to pass, and the warriors of the rainbow are now beginning to be born. The veil of tears, the 9 hells, is over, and it is time to prepare for the 13 heavens. The ancestors are returning, my brothers and sisters, and we do not have long. Now is the time that the prophecies will be fulfilled. Although quartz is used to maintain accuracy in timepieces, there's no accurate way to measure time when it comes to quartz and crystal skulls. The earth is crystalline, and the quartz crystal is the most abundant mineral in Earth's crust. Some of the oldest known rocks on the planet have quartz in them, which are about 3.8 billion years old. Quartz is ancient, and there is currently no date to age of quartz itself because it cannot be carbon dated. The only way that science can currently attempt to determine the age of a crystal skull is to examine it microscopically to find the markings that indicate what type of tool was used to carve it. Quartz is one of the oldest minerals on Earth. Only diamond, topaz and sapphire are harder. The creation of diamond tools allowed quartz to be carved faster and more precisely, and also allowed for a smoother polish. Use of these diamond tools determines whether a crystal skull is considered to be new, old, or ancient. In ancient times, it would have taken years, even decades, of generations to carve a crystal skull, depending on its size. Hammers, chisels, and various stone or metal tools were originally used to carve the crystal. Ancient civilizations also fashioned hand tools such as bow drills, which was used to carve seals in the Himalayas dating back to 650 AD. The markings on the Tibetan crystal skull, Almar, are those of being carved by hand using a primitive bow drill. It is estimated that this large crystal skull would have taken decades to have carved. The ancient used various abrasives such as sand to polish crystal skulls, and some even used human hair to polish the crystal with the intention of infusing the skull with their wisdom and knowledge through this process, which often took generations. Crystal skulls are amplifiers and generators of energy, and also store information like computers. The new crystal skull is much like a new computer. It is only imprinted with basic programs of the energetic properties of the stone it's carved from. It's also absorbed energies from the carver or from anyone who's handled it. Crystal skulls can be imprinted with this energy simply by contact, and they can also be programmed with intention and consciousness. Old or ancient skulls are imprinted with the energy and information that has been programmed into them, and with the energy that they have come into contact with or witnessed. Crystal skulls were often used for healing, but some cultures also used them in rituals related to human sacrifice, especially in Mesopotamia. A ma was used by the Tibetan monks for healing and divination purposes. So the energy that comes from a ma is powerfully healing. When it comes to old and ancient crystal skulls, the key is to be able to access the information and energy contained within them. This is like trying to find someone else's password to access files in an old computer. Old or ancient skulls are powerful taskmasters with their own destiny and their own agenda. While people romanticize about the ideas of possessing an old and ancient crystal skull, the reality is that the guardians of these skulls tend to be called to sacrifice aspects of their own lives in order to serve the destiny of the crystal skull itself, which can be very demanding. Newer crystal skulls serve their guardians and all those who come into contact with them. They're not clogged with old energetic imprints and have the energy of newer, faster computers. The clearer the quartz, the more energy it emits, with the clearest quartz actually appearing to store and emit light. You can actually see this phenomenon if you look for the Ascension crystal skulls. In essence, all crystal skulls are ancient because quartz is ancient. Newer skulls tend to be more precisely carved and smoothly polished. They can be programmed more easily and accessed much faster, much in the way a new computer functions faster than an older computer. An older computer may contain more information, but it depends very much on who programmed it as to what information it contains. Much like computers, energy can be cleared, deleted, cleansed from crystal skulls, but the imprint of the information it contains does not go away. It remains stored within it. As with a new computer, a new crystal skull allows access to all information through a Wi-Fi-like connection and connects to all crystal skulls all over the world, both ancient and modern, through the cosmic internet of the crystal skull grid. Perhaps the most famous crystal skull in the world today is the Mitchell-Hedges crystal skull, named after a very real Indiana Jones of the 20th century. British explorer and adventurer F.A. Mitchell-Hedges, the most distinguishable characteristic of this crystal skull is its extraordinary clarity and its detachable jaw, carved from the same piece of quartz as the rest of the skull. This crystal skull was originally called the Skull of Dun, after an associate on one of the expeditions of Lubantum in Belize. This is where Anna Mitchell-Hedges, at the age of 16, claims to have found the crystal skull in the ruins of a Mayan pyramid. It was later called the Skull of Doom, to supposedly ward off possible malintentioned encounters. The Mitchell-headed crystal skull has recently been renamed by the present caretaker Bill Homan as the Skull of Love. While its history may be somewhat controversial, the facts remain that the Mitchell-Hedges crystal skull is a true so-called out-of-place artifact, meaning that despite the most evolved research, including extensive laboratory examination by Silicon Valley's Hewlett-Packard, no one has been able to prove it is a hoax. Hewlett-Packard's research concluded that because the Mitchell-Hedges crystal skull was carved in disregard to the natural access of the quartz itself, which is a process unheard of in our modern time, because the quartz is likely to shatter while carving, and because there were no marks from having used any metal tools, the Mitchell-Hedges skull technically should not exist. After the release of the movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, there has been a virtual inundation of crystal skulls emerging, many claiming to be ancient. However, Einstein is truly exceptional. This particular crystal skull has been kept private for decades, making its first official public appearance on October the 10th, 2010. At the 10-10-10 Crystal Skull Gathering in New York City, in conjunction with Edgar Chase Association for Research and Enlightenment. Many years ago, the crystal skull Einstein had been examined and determined to be ancient by the father of crystal skull research, Fr. Nick, Chirino, the formal Crystal Skulls Society International. Einstein shares uncanny similarities with other ancient crystal skulls. The elongated oval-shaped temples are almost identical to the ancient amethyst crystal skull known as AMI and the Mayan crystal skull, both of which were examined by Fr. Nick Nocerino. But the most striking feature of the Einstein crystal skull is its massive size, measuring 10 inches from nose to back, weighing in at 33 pounds. It earns the heavyweight title of the largest ancient crystal skull, which was previously held by the crystal skull Max. Many people think that Einstein's name was inspired by the German Nobel scientist Albert Einstein, but this is not correct. Even though Albert Einstein himself said to have admired crystals, there is a so-called Einstein crystal that is a quartz reputed to have been one of his cherished personal possessions. Einstein's present guardian said that the name just came to her, and she was astonished to learn many years later that in German, the translation Einstein means one stone, which is very appropriate for this massive crystal skull, especially if one takes into account that it would have probably required a huge piece of quartz well over 100 pounds to carve this 33-pound crystal skull. Any crystal skull guardian would probably acknowledge that crystal skulls have their own personality and times create their own identity. Einstein likes to sport eyes, which are sphere-shaped eyeballs referred to as vision stones. Einstein came to its present guardian, Carolyn Ford, in 1989 from the estate of an explorer adventurer who brought back the crystal skull from Mexico in the 1920s as part of his collection of rare artifacts. Carolyn has kept Einstein a secret for all these years and only shared Einstein with the world when she presented him as the mystery skull at the powerful 10-10-10 event in New York City. Since then, she's been making energies of Einstein available through her website and appearance in the United States of America. I will leave a link to Carolyn's website in this description below. So, if you would like to have your very own crystal skull, please visit Carolyn's website or email her with your request and be a part of the mystery of the crystal skull. Thank you for listening.